right. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you to so many of you for joining us. I am really excited to chat with Andra for the next hour or so and talk about everything procurement, not procurement, building in the space of procurement, and just how does a woman remain strong, kind, calm, innovative, and keep rising in the ranks, and still have so many people follow and support and love you. So I think it's going to be a really exciting conversation. But I'll just begin with introducing Andra, and then Andra, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. But my basic understanding is that you spent a long time, 13 years, 15 to 16 years at Vodafone in the space of procurement, just rising in the ranks, which is really cool because it's such a well-known, globally renowned company that it doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, you know Vodafone. I have a Vodafone network in India, so everyone knows Vodafone. And I think after that, you kind of joined Amazon for a little bit for 10, 11 months. And then you founded something that I actually want to talk to you about, Help Kids Pro, because I run a think tank for children on the spectrum. So it's super exciting. I want to kind of get a little bit into that. You also have founded Solutionary Minds. You've done work with, you're a product consultant for Kraft and Company. So I'm just really excited to talk about all of this experience and all these companies that you founded and all the work that you've done. But I'll let you introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's really an amazing way to start the year, and I think you're doing a great job. I've been, watching carefully some of your previous sessions, and I'm really impressed by the wide breadth of knowledge and skills and capabilities that you're bringing to the community. So really well done to that. And it's humbling to be invited among these people. So thank you. It's not my strong to introduce myself. Never know what to say. I'm Andra Fola. I have 2 kids. I think that's very important for me. They're teenagers. So my son is almost 17, my daughter 12, and that keeps me on my toes, made me a better negotiator, made me a better professional. So, and it defines a lot of who I am and what I do and my priorities. We live in Luxembourg for the last 8, 9 years. I'm Romanian. I've done computer science as a training background with a major in finance. So I'm a bit of a geek. I paint. I never know where I sit, so I don't fit necessarily into a standard form or shape. And it's true, I've been spending a lot of my career in procurement, supply chain, starting low entry with doing invoices for part-time, and then growing into the field that I fell in love with. And decided to stay because it had a ton of things to offer and such an amazing space to just develop and learn and find out how the world works. So that's it about me. I don't know what to say. And yes, now I stepped outside, did the leap outside of big corporates, and I'm starting my own small little business. Hopefully it will grow into something meaningful.
I love that, and I love that you said that you're a mother, because I feel like motherhood teaches you everything that you need to learn. I look at my mom, and I'm just like, how do you know all this, and how do you do all this? And I'm just like, maybe because you're a mom. Maybe me, my brother, and me are to be thanked for all that my mom can do. So yes, I fully hear you. Okay, awesome. So let's start with what's been your favorite role thus far of all that you've done till now, Andra?
It's hard to pick. I think what I loved most about my career and my progress, and especially procurement, is that I had room to experiment. So I really did all the things that I found interesting and I was attracted to, either leadership and growing and developing teams, setting up new org structures, doing regional roles, transformation, digital. So that I think is my favorite in procurement. It's always something new to learn, always a new kid in the block, a new challenge, a new market disruption, something that keeps you, puts your brain into work and pushes you outside of your comfort zone. And that is where I am at my best, really. And that I think I love the most. In my progress or my learning, if you want, from my career is that I stay a couple of years. The start is always very challenging, like it is now with my business. Never know if you're doing the right thing. You don't have a benchmark. You learn as much as you can. You connect with people, build your network, whatever you do. And then you enter into a zone where you start really getting a grip, understanding. And then you even can innovate, bring something new, connect with something from the past. And then once I climb the mountain, I'm looking for my next challenge. So that's been, if you want, my constant. And procurement and Vodafone especially offer that. And that's why I stayed for so long. I stayed 20 years in Vodafone. And then most of my career in procurement. In each role, I learned something new or offered a new challenge. When you do, I don't know, I did user experience, right? Something very different. It's not procurement. It's how do users interact and what's their experience when working with tech, right? With procurement tech. It was so new and so outside of where I was. And I learned a ton about human behavior, about what interests them, how can you simplify their life, how can you respond, how can you be there, be seen, and so on. So in each one of them, I did tactical procurement for a long time and transformation. When I moved here in Luxembourg, I traveled a lot, and then I went into sales, right? Because it was a transformation. So how do you change and drive the change and change the status quo and move people from doing what they are doing now, meaning handling their own little procurement on the side, going to suppliers, getting codes, right? And changing into working with a partner. And that's more sales than anything else. Is engagement, is how can you do better? Again, it's a lot of human behavior, a lot of pushback, a lot of questions. So that brought a lot of sales capabilities and communication. The data analytics, I did big deals. In big deals, you have a ton of pressure, right? You deal with billions. When you deal with billions and highly exposed, I did media, for example, and media buying just before I left from Vodafone. That's highly exposed, right? It can affect the brand. Everybody's interested. They all know it. So then you have a different type of pressure and different type of skill set that you need to activate. So I can talk a lot about it. That's what I love, the change and the new, and that I always could find areas to push myself and learn.
Do you feel like you brought more creativity than was there in the space of procurement, or more logic than that was there in the space of procurement? What do you think was what you brought to the space of procurement that wasn't already there?
It's really hard to answer. I think something that differentiates me is that this love of change. And then over time you build, and I build a curricula of understanding a multitude of dimensions of procurement, from tech to users to our own experiences, procurement buyers, because I was there, or leaders in driving strategy, or engagement with stakeholders or exec engagement. So over time, I built such a diverse set of perspectives that one in itself proved value, because I could always connect from one point onward in my career with a multitude of perspectives when making a decision. And that you don't see very often. So that's, if you want, the result of my curiosity is a byproduct of how my career evolved over time. It gave me this multitude of perspectives that I could play on. From a personal perspective, I think this, I don't know, belief that everything has a solution, and my stubbornness, borderline resilience to push through, to find, to pivot if I don't find something, to rethink, to, you know, innovate if you want. I don't know if it's always innovation. Ah, that's cute. Mine, it's closed behind the door. It's forbidden. So going back, I think this also is something that I brought new. And that gave me the opportunities, if you want. I had these open doors, right? When I said, let me give it a shot for user experience, or why not try to do a new transformation? Or how about developing an agile operating model? Because I could bring this change and fast thinking and learning, and then multitude of perspectives. It positioned me in a prime spot to say, okay, Andra can do it, has the capability, has the mindset, has the speed. So I don't know, I think that hopefully that answers the question. Yeah, it's always hard to say, you know, what makes you different.
No, I love that. And tell me, what kept you growing at Vodafone, Andra? Because, you know, sometimes I feel like, you know, you feel like you've done your work at a company and you're ready to move on to the next place. What kept you at Vodafone for that long?
I think it's worth to start with a bit of context. So when I started working at Vodafone in telecommunication, it was even before being acquired by Vodafone. It was a Canadian company that was acquired by Vodafone in Romania. Telecommunication was the industry to be in, right? It was the one that was transforming our lives. It was highly innovative. Everybody knew what's happening. Everybody had that, you know, wide reach. And then it attracted a lot of talent. All the people that wanted to do something, right? They were attracted to telecommunications. So that created this, if you want, unique setting that you don't very often find, where it's something that touches people's life. It is highly innovative and highly dynamic. And then you have around yourself people that are passionate and are driven and want to do things and know, and they're at the top of, you know, their field, whatever it is. So that was the context when I started working at Vodafone, and it built, I don't know, traction. It built something beyond logic, right? You start getting emotionally attached. You grow with it. Yeah, so I was 20 when I started. You grow with the company, you grow with the industry. And then I had amazing people that I could learn from around. And I think that kept me. If there is something that kept me so long, were the people that were around me, engineers. When I entered into discussions with them, it's inspiring, right? To be around people that love what they do and they want to, you know, they invent and change and deploy something new, and they always have a new puzzle to solve. So that kept me. And then in procurement, I always say, I think it's not so politically right to say it now after a pandemic, but I always said, you get the virus, right? You start if you love it, you love it. Either it gives you a sense of accomplishment or personal impact. You see results of what you do. It's highly dynamic. So procurement in itself is a field that is extremely fit for who I am and, fit for what I'm looking for. So that's what kept me in it. I just loved it. Got emotionally attached and found a space where I could develop and have amazing people, really, that lifted me up and inspired me to do more and be more, and also to dare, especially as a woman, as a mom, because that's how we started. My son is 17, so I was a new mom at the beginning of my career. I don't know, it made me dare to dream that I can accomplish, right? Be a successful, or if you want a true mom around my kids, but then also build a career and have it all if you want. So yeah, I found that environment where I could do that. So that's it.
That is beautiful. I know I asked you a question, Andra, about what is it that you brought to the space of procurement, but I'm going to reframe that question a little bit. What were some strategic moves that you made while at your time at Vodafone that kept you rising in the ranks, like in your career? Some good pivots, some good strategic bets that you kept making.
I think initially in my career, I built it quite traditionally, right? So the logic was you go, build your expertise. I started in network, did network procurement, learning it inside out, then move as a manager for the network procurement team, then move into a regional role, then take head of procurement, so a CPO role. So I went very traditional, if you want, as a career step. The real pivot started after my CPO role. And the reason I did that is that I realized that I can do the job, but I don't love the job. And I was lucky that I found out I was, 32, I think. It was in Romania, Vodafone was, I don't know, maybe top 3 companies in terms of investments, or if you're on foreign investment in the country, it was maybe top 2. So I reached the highlight of my career very fast. And then I realized that, yeah, it's amazing. You can do things, but it's not something that I'm in love with. So that's when I started to pivot. And I think that's where it gets interesting because it's less traditional. And I was driven a lot by curiosity and then always building on the skills that I built before. So because I am I had training career in computer science. And because I did technology procurement at the beginning of my career, it was very easy to pivot into a digital role, right? Within procurement. It's not traditional. You go from a CPO role and then you end up into digital strategy and, I don't know, process owner, right? Nobody understands. It's not, you don't see it very often, at least when I was at that point of pivot. But I always build on the capabilities that I built before. Then I did tactical that drove me into sales and communication and working with everybody in the organization. Because when you do tactical sourcing, you have 70% of the buyers and 70% of the procurement users anywhere. Everybody has something to buy. So that gave me that, if you want, perspective of what people need, and that positioned me very well for user experience. And because I did all that, I I could do agile and looking into strategy and operating models because I had the building blocks already. So, and I cannot say I've done it necessarily on purpose. It's a mix of opportunities, if you want, and then strategic bets. The biggest strategic bet was I'm not taking a traditional route, and whatever people say, and they might, not understand why I take some steps and not others, why I don't go into a director role or taking, and I want to do that. I remain true to myself, and that kept me going, and it was rewarding and fun and learning. So that I think is the biggest bet that I took in my career, and then I could always somehow grasp what I built before and build on top. So add another layer, so I could become a more and more complete professional.
I love that. That's beautiful. Okay, so Andrea, really common question that a common question that people have that we I think don't sometimes ask people with a lot of time and experience and wisdom is the simple thing of what was your day like, or what is a day like, leading big teams at a big procurement company. What's an average day like?
I don't know if there is the average day is that it's always something unexpected happening. That's a constant, if you want. Either it's somebody in your team that has a challenge in a project, or a personal challenge that you have to step in, remind yourself you're human, rearrange things for people to have space for their personal things to do. Or you have, I don't know, a new campaign from a competitor that you need to respond very quickly to, or you are in the middle of, I don't know, a network swap, right? And something bursts and you need to jump. So it's always something that happens every day. You have that prepare for the unexpected element. I think that's one of the constants. The other one, as a leader, you always have people, right? Either people that are in your team, people that you work with, your peers or stakeholders, customer, call them supply, whatever, right? So you have a sum of people around you, and people are unpredictable and full of wonders and always surprising. So that's always very good fun to have that. Either they achieve something great and you want to celebrate, or they have a challenge, or that doesn't really matter, right? So that's another constant. There is an element of something with somebody happening, or you want to do something, or give feedback, or I don't know, create a new opportunity, or expose somebody to a new opportunity, or give them room to grow, get them into a meeting for them to see and learn something else, and so on. So that's another element. And then you have those strategic moments, I think, where you realize the impact you can create, and you feel the responsibility. And those are those moments where you say, and you go and ask yourself, what do you stand for? Do you do enough? Did you take ownership enough? Those moments of reflection, and when you challenge yourself to do better, to think better, to drive more. When you're in a high leadership position, you carry a responsibility, right? Because you shape market behaviors. If you start dumping, I don't know, putting pressure on prices, everybody moves with you. If you accept low quality, everybody moves with you. If you ask for more quality, and in Romania we had, and I did it, Vodafone deploys networks, right? And that's always a high risk of health and safety because you work at heights, you work with electricity, and you always have, and I always carry that with me of how do you drive the right behavior? Do you equip enough the teams? Do you ask enough from the suppliers? Are they trained enough? How can you shape the market? How can you give an example, right? Because you set examples when you are investing, I don't know, 50% of the construction in a country, then what you set as a standard becomes a country standard. So those are also, I don't know if they come daily, but they come often enough where you sit down and strategically either rethink or challenge yourself or think, intentionally on how do you want to use the influence that you have to do better. And there were maybe, I don't know, months or years where I had really to be there 80 hours a week. So it can be really intense. There are periods where it's constant and it's a lot, right? And the rhythm is burning. So I had to run in many moments. So running was another constant in between meetings, in between buildings, in between locations, going to group, going back in another country, traveling, running, and that's another constant. Time doesn't seem to be enough.
Did being a woman in any of this ever feel like a hindrance in, in all the work that you did?
At the beginning of my career and early, I don't know, the first maybe 5 to 10 years, I was constantly one of the very few. I worked in a technology environment with a lot of engineers. We were maybe 3 out of 200 women. Then in procurement again, I never felt I had this advantage, but always was obvious I'm special in a way, right? Just for being a woman. I think growing and starting to learn more about biases and looking back at my experience with different eyes now that I'm in my 40s and I know more, I think there were, yes, challenges and specific limitations. Either that, you really need to be careful on how you look, very different than a man would have, right? So when you zoom out and start really in the middle of the moment, maybe you don't get it. And I'm tough, I'm assertive. I always found ways to do things, right? But when I look back, I think, yes, I had to be different, to work more, to be accepted, to look great, but not great enough, to be assertive, but not too much, and so on, right? To speak loud in meetings because otherwise nobody would, not even listen. I had to, I don't know, stand and whistle, right? I had to go and do things that a man probably doesn't need to. And I had moments where I discovered I was the least paid from my peers. And I never had the problem of performance. But I took them naturally, I took them with, I had the kids to grow and the career to build, and I was upset. And then went back and fought for what I was owed. And so yes, yeah, clearly.
I love that, and I love the fact that you said that you have to be a woman but not too much of a woman. Like how do you find the balance, but not tip over? It's interesting and it's important. Okay, amazing. Thank you, Andrew. You're so real and you give such honest, truthful answers that it just makes it interesting to chat more. Okay, so let's move forward. I personally, Andrew, I'm really curious about your two companies that you've co-founded, the Help Kids Pro and Solutionary Minds. So if you could talk a little bit about both of those, and we'd love that. I'm sure everyone's going to love to hear about that.
Okay. So let's do that. Help Kids is born from my experience as a mom, having a challenge with my kids on managing I don't know, managing their screen time exposure. And that kept me quite constantly innovating. At each age, I had to invent something new, something that I didn't find on the market, neither as guidance. Obviously, my education didn't help at all because I didn't have that challenge, neither my parents didn't have that challenge. My friends didn't because we were one of the first in our group of friends that had kids. So I found myself in these moments of, okay, now what? What do you do? How much? And finding this balance of understanding that technology is the future and it creates opportunities and it's creating space to learn, and but then realizing that too much is too much. So that's how Help Kids Pro got born, out of my personal endeavors and struggles to find ways and balance with my kids. And I think it's the basis of how Solutionary Minds came into it, because through my kids, I had to go and study, right? Go and learn about growth mindset, about how do you educate them better, about positive parenting, about emotional regulation, about all the things that nobody teaches them and neither us as parents, and you realize that they need. How do you help your kids to manage their emotions or understand them or talk about them and be opening up and create trust in your home and so on. So I think through them, I ended up reading more and studying more and discovering so many things that I had no idea. And if I would have known, I would have maybe managed better my career and my workload and avoid the burnouts and so on, right? So I think everything is connected in life. Having my kids and having such a strong motivator to do better and be better and learn, I got to discover a lot of tools and techniques and capabilities that us as adults, we also need. So, and then in my journey, I met my current business partner for Solutionary Minds, Michelle. Michelle is a psychologist, and she's, I think, also having project in autism, like you do. So you have common passions and purpose. She's amazing, and she was there teaching me and coaching me personally beyond my burnout, and also in building solutions with my kids. And I realized that it's such a wealth of techniques that we can bring in business. And earlier in kids' life, we have a youth program, it's Road to Happiness, that we are scaling. So these investments pay off in early childhood, and I see it with my teens. Later, when you discover who you are and set your path. And then also for me in my 40s or 50s or 60s, to start, being calmer, more kinder, finding our purpose, our inner resources. And the tools are the same. And we don't speak a lot about it. We don't bring them in the education. I didn't have them in, and I went to a lot of leadership trainings. Imagine, right? In a big career, you end up doing and being exposed and having opportunities to learn a lot. But nobody taught me that. Things that are life skills are human skills. Yeah, it's not business. It's about you and who you are. So that's what connects both of them, and that's what we are trying to accomplish with both our projects.
Got it. How did you move from procurement to these two companies? And is there any element of procurement? What element sits?
Yes, I think one, I'm fortunate that procurement is a human skills business. It's not. It's a lot about hard skills. Yes, you need to know to do analytics and understand cost drivers and markets and whatever, right? You have a ton of things to know and learn about, and technology and cloud, and it's always something new. But then ultimately, it's you can make a personal difference through your skills, be it communication, growth mindset, emotional intelligence, regulation, your resilience. So that in itself put me in a position to I don't know the value and understand, have real experience and be tested, like intensely tested, right? Another element that prepared me for my business is that I was a leader. For many years, I had teams and managed teams in different settings, virtual, local, regional, in the office, out of the office, outside, in different time zones. And working and having people around always pushes you to, to learn. How do you give feedback? What's important? How do you attract? How do you motivate? How do you demotivate? How do you raise somebody? How do you avoid burnout? So that also prepared me for my current business. So those are, if you want, how procurement prepared me for doing what I'm doing now. And then also it gives me direction, because what I understand, having done procurement, is the sweet spot procurement is into an organization and into the world. So everything that any business has to invest, that's external investment, goes to procurement. So you can influence it, either making it greener, more impactful, going, covering ethics, ESG, and so on, right? So procurement is in that sweet spot of having an impact. So then, because I understand the world and I understand this tremendous potential that procurement is in, I can go and support the people doing procurement to feel better, be more motivated, be in more, resilient state, be in a better position themselves to carry this impact. So somehow it's, I don't know, mathematically, the best position or the best people that I could work with to improve their lives, because the impact that they can carry in the world is I think unlimited. So that's how it builds up, if you want.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, amazing. No, I see it. I've been in the space of procurement only for the last 8 months. But now that I have a bird's eye view of the space of procurement, I see how closely interlinked it is to everything. So yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome. So Andra, we're in a very dynamic procurement environment. Everything is changing, everything's staying the same. That there's a lot going on in the space of procurement. How can procurement actually serve the purpose of solving some of the big problems when everybody is trying to do everything? It's such a messy area. How do you see procurement being actually a tool to excellent problem solving?
I will take the human element first, because that's where I focus, and we focused a lot in our conversation. I think in order for any of us to, maximize the impact, as I call it, right? To do the best that we can, to be the best of who we can be, we have three big elements to look into. One is knowing who we are, what drives us, what motivates us, what are the skills, what are, I don't know, our traumas, our fears, how can we go through them, how do they influence us, biases and so on, right? So understanding who we are and how we operate is one. Being in our best shape, mind and body, and they're really interlinked, right? You cannot be in your best mind if you're not in your best body. You need to feed it right, you need exercise, you need sleep in order to function and cognitively be at your best. And then you need a network, a support network. Alone, you can do so much. So if you want, from a human perspective, if we take ownership as what we can, each one of us do, if we start with these three, that's what puts us in a best position to go and be the real problem solvers, right? Because you need to have the inner resources and the drive and the enthusiasm and the motivation and the purpose to do it. And if you don't know yourself, you are tired, you don't sleep, you're exhausted, out of, I don't know, magnesium, calcium, and everything else, very little friends around, and then you don't have supporters that cheer you when you need to or give you a push or honest feedback, then all these go very low, right? So that's my equation for human, and that's where Solutionary Minds come in. If you take the business dimension into consideration, then naturally, I think procurement organizations see themselves and are in an organization in a position to solve problems. Where the trick lies, I think, in what you can do better than just pick up the problem and solve it is, one, prevent it. And I think that that's what happens a lot with risk and ESG and ethical behaviors. Yeah, so you have an effort to prevent things from happening. Prevention is one element of problem solving. So let's eliminate the problems before they happen. That will not give anybody, I don't think we sorted out how do you measure the value of something that never happened, and we are a bit blind as people to things that are not obvious, right? So it's a bit of, I think you need a special degree of resilience to be in these type of roles that go and prevent things from happening. Bad performance, risk management, all that carries, this challenge of, if I do my job well, nobody knows that I've done my job well. And then the other element is choosing what problems to solve. And that's where you go into purpose and what drives a company and where you operate and owning the impact that you can create. That, I think, what makes is the mix, the right mix that you'd find into a procurement organization that creates this positive impact is people, one by one, are in their best shape and they have everything they need around them to strive and be the best that they can be. And then look at problems that you can eliminate, and then with the rest, and the rest is, we see black swans, a lot of things that are unpredictable. And I think more and more this unpredictability becomes the norm, is what problems do you solve, because you won't be able to solve them. And how do you organize yourselves to solve it? Because traditionally, procurement is organized in pillars, right? You have strategy, category management, risk, and so on. When something disruptive comes, and COVID, a war, I don't know, shortage, everything gets impacted from beginning to the chain to the end of the chain. The entire supply chain gets disrupted. And for that, you need to build on purpose your organization to be able to respond, rather than always at any disruption, disrupt everything else, pull some people from what they are doing, create another mess for them to solve whatever comes. Yeah. So if you take, I think the disruption is a constant, is how do you organize yourself to remain flexible and nimble and be able to adapt to that, right? And the impact, or I think, if you want, for us, from a future career perspective, if organization, and my belief is that that's going to happen, right? So you will see more and more flexible organization designs. We can call them agile, we can call them different names. But then as a professional, it will be something like the replica of my small little experiments, pivoting in my own little career, is how do you position yourself to be involved in the coolest, the newest, the things that you can create the biggest impact, you can learn the most from. So that's where we will need to develop very different skills in order for us to become, position or best choice, or have the bigger opportunities to do something good. Yeah, so those are the elements. Humans in their best, right? Prevention, choosing what you want to solve for, and then organizing yourself to solve for disruption.
I love that. That's beautiful. And Andra, I love that you said that, for us to be able to disrupt, how do humans remain flexible is so important, because every time we disrupt, humans themselves disrupt. And I think that's why we're not able to build. We just keep breaking more than building. That's excellent. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so you mentioned you hope to, and if this is, or if you already kind of spoken about this, you could just expand on it. But you mentioned in your bio that you hope to build solutions for over 1 million lives through some of your work now. How do you see some of that coming to fruition? That's A. But B, does it make you nervous to take such a big, bold stance on something?
I will start with the second. And I don't know if it's from who I am or the jobs that I used to have, bold and big and thinking big and very far away. It's more the norm than, so now it doesn't scare me. I think I need something, a North Star that I believe in. It's achievable, but then gives me that edge and that push rather than being comfortable. And I think, I don't know if potentially it's an age. Also, when you become mature, you want to, do good. I think use what you have achieved, and not only for yourself and, for your kids, and you're having a house and doing holidays and whatever you want, but rather giving back, right? So for me, it's a motivator. I have some ideas already on obviously how I want to achieve it, but I also am it humbles me. It gives me that sense that there is a long road ahead, and I will need to experiment and fail a lot and find new ways to serve this purpose and this impact. I think it will come through a sum of direct impact, if you want, of people that use our tools, get better, are better, avoid burnout, are more resilient, become more inspired to do good, take ownership of their roles, feel more ready to do it. So I think there are these elements of impact, direct impact, that we will create over time. I don't know how we are going to measure it, but we will see. I will find a way. But I think also there is that butterfly effect, and that's where procurement stands. And that's why I love the course of my business, is that if, let's imagine I'm a procurement professional, I don't know, I have 30 suppliers that I deal with in a large market, and I can touch, I don't know how many thousands of workers, right? If I am better and I can bring, and I have the force and the resilience and the motivation to go and change something in that environment, very small, right? To say, from now on, we don't do things green, we do them blue. We don't accept kids to work, right? What? There's so many things that you can do. Or we avoid travel because we want to reduce our carbon footprint, or, right? Then the butterfly effect of that impact, it's something that I will never be able to measure, but it's true and it's real and it's there. And it's easy. When you think of it, it's not so hard. 1 million maybe is not a big number. But I don't know how to measure it yet. So, and I don't think I will focus on that. It's more to give us fuel and create that meaning, right? What do we work for? What do we strive to achieve? What drives in each of our decisions? When we need to develop an app or the other, is this, how do we prioritize, right? And if you prioritize on impact rather than money or commercials or, I don't know, easiness, then it carries you in a different way.
I love that. That's beautiful, and that's so well articulated. Okay, so Andra, towards our last question and a half, what have been some of your hardest wins and losses in your, almost 2 decades in procurement? Some of the hardest wins and some of the biggest losses.
Wins, I think we talked a lot about them. Yeah, it's what motivates, the impact, so much, right? In terms of losses, I think when I look back, I would have loved to know what I know now, maybe 15 years ago, to be a better maybe leader and a better manager. So that for sure, if I'm taking a bit of self-evaluation, I think I could have done. I've always been very human. I've always been very involved with the people and supportive and clear and whatever, right? So I really try to do my best. But I realize now as a parent and also knowing more and developing and being a bit more wise, that understanding human nature maybe would have helped me to be better. I think I had to give up a lot, or there were years where, having it all is not really, it's not every day, right? So I didn't see my kids for maybe 1 year, outside of weekends, because I was 7 o'clock in the morning in the office. I was leaving 11 o'clock in the night or even later. I look back and I'm very fortunate that I had support, and my mom and my dad and my partner, my husband, that is an involved dad, and helped me with that. So that's a loss when you think of it. I don't regret it, because I did things with passion and I think for the right reasons. And you need to, from time to time, you have to push. So I know, perfect doesn't exist, and I don't regret it, but that's something that I feel I gave. And then something also that I carried with me and I learned late, and that's maybe another of the fuel of the solutions that we are building now. When I took the CPO role, the former CPO that I had a handover in theory, and the handover was we used to work together, we knew each other. Was Andra, I'm sure you will do amazing in whatever you're setting yourself to do. Remember to build supporters, right? That was, and it took me a long time, many years to understand. And to understand, it felt, I don't know, it didn't feel deep enough. Or really, is this what the CPO role is about? But then I understood that it's human nature, right? You don't get to, you cannot do everything alone. So you need people around you, and people attach themselves to something that they understand, they feel they contributed to. They don't attach themselves to something and invest their personal whatever brands and support and time for things that they don't know about, they have no understanding of impact, they were not involved in. So that, I think, also potentially I lost some opportunities, and maybe I could have done better having understood that earlier. And I think I had that, I don't know, a bit arrogant mindset that if it's right, we need to do it, right? It's right, it's for the right thing. But we all carry this limitation, including myself. And at the moment when I accepted that, it shifted and changed my career. And also how I interact with my family and my friends. When you accept and you start accepting human nature as it is without judgment, and see it in yourself, then that's a moment where you can really, turn things around. So those are, if you want, losses or learnings, big learnings from it. Otherwise, there's always a deal that crashes or something that you could have done better. Is like football. You never know. Is, I don't know, 10% enough saving? Maybe you could have done 12. It's no science behind, right? It's just a matter of, do you believe that you've done your best and everything that you could have?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I again like truly respect you for your honesty and your humility, even though you haven't mentioned that yet. Okay, Andra, so coming towards the last part, you kind of started building on it, just about the sacrifices that you have to make in any big move that you have to make in life, and sacrifices that sometimes have a cost benefit to it, but it's still a big sacrifice, right? So if there is somebody who's just starting off in procurement, if you could just build off on that, because I think sometimes we get in with just a lot of optimism, and excitement, and a promise of frills and thrills and all of these things. But what would be advice you'd give to someone who's getting newly into the field of procurement?
I think I wrote it because giving advice is always a bit difficult. We are people and we have context. It's hard to give something general, but I think eager to learn or open to learn, and that is beyond knowledge that we would take from books or something that we see in school. It is accepting feedback, accepting to be hurt, accepting to be wrong. That took for me a long, and I think procurement is a power-driven business, right? So we all feel the need to be in power, be right, to win. And it's hard. It's really, it feels sometimes it contradicts your superpower to have a step back and listen and learn, because you feel that you are weaker, right? And that requires a constant reminder to stay humble, to realize that there is so much to learn, take feedback, Some action on it, some you don't action on it. And that's critically important because it avoids for you to get into traps, right? Into arrogance, into ego building, and then opens a ton of career opportunities. And for the future, because we discussed about how disruption is a constant and technology is accelerating, the learning cycles are shorter and shorter. That, I think, is why this is becoming critically important, because you need to reinvent yourself every 3 to 5 years. And in order to do that, you need to be open to learn something new and discover something new about you and reinvent yourself. So that is a constant. I would not worry about hard skills. Hard skills are because the rhythm is so, you are pushed, you are thrown in the water. Very, we know we don't have so much all of onboarding. You enter in procurement and then you go and do deals, right? So I'm not worried about hard skills. Yeah. Cost drivers, market dynamics, legal concepts. By the nature of the job, you'll be forced somehow in a way to learn. I'm more going into human skills, these life skills that take longer to build, challenge our own behaviors, challenge our own beliefs, attach themselves with our fears. And if you can, I don't know, learn cost modeling or data analytics in 6 months, 1 year, you will learn growth mindset in 4. So start early. That's and identify those skills, those life skills or human skills, how I call them, or soft skills, how we all call them, and invest in them early, because those will be the challenge and those would make a difference. That's it. That's my advice.